Hi folks, welcome to my video on the Walther K43 gas system, disassembly of it, and a little bit about how it works. The beginning of these videos usually begins with me showing clear on the guns, but in this case, neither of these actually have bolts in them right now, so they're not in a firing condition. So with that out of the way, before we can actually start talking about the K43 gas system, we need to talk about the SVT-40 gas system. Because while everyone knows that the Germans make good stuff, as per ShamWow, the Germans in the 1940s thought the Soviets made some pretty good stuff, specifically in the form of the SVT-40's gas system, because it is significantly better than their G41 gas system, which was a gas trap type, that they had some pretty significant problems with, like everyone else that ever tried to use a gas trap system. So the SVT-40 gas system is essentially four pieces. You have a piston, you have a cylinder which rides around the piston, you have this linking rod, and then you have essentially the operating rod back here in the back, which is spring-loaded, as is the K43. So there's your fifth part, if you consider it so. So the SVT-40, the way it comes apart is by just pulling the linking rod back, letting it forward. That comes to the side. The little operating rod comes out. There's the spring there. And the cylinder comes off the piston. The piston is screwed into the gas block here. It has some wrench flats here where it could be removed if necessary. But unless you have some particular reason to do that, I would usually refrain. They're in there pretty tight and it's really not necessary to take it apart. We'll throw this back together real quick just to get the parts out of our way. Cylinder goes onto the piston. Operating rod goes in. Oh, doing that backwards. Linking rod goes back in to the operating rod. Pull back with everything lined up. And it goes back into the cylinder there. So whenever you have gas come up through the gas block and through the piston, it forces the cylinder to the rear and comes out the back here to work against the carrier. The K43 is essentially just a shortened version of the same thing. In order to get it apart, pull back on the little operating rod here, the link comes out. As you can see on the K43, it is quite a bit shorter. And this part is reversible. Direction doesn't matter. The little operating rod comes out. It has its spring on it, so it returns forward. You have the gas cylinder come back off of the gas piston. Again, the gas piston is screwed in, and I wouldn't take it off unless you have a particular need to. In this case, I did have a particular need to, because this is not the original gas piston. The original gas piston is right here. As you can see, dimensionally, they are extremely similar. They are really the same length, same diameter, same general design. There's not much difference in them. What is different about this 'Gas piston by Applegate is that the interior of it, at the very end here, is threaded. And what you're able to do is put in these plugs. This one here is a blank plug that has no hole through it, so this would make it essentially a bolt action, a straight pull bolt action. It wouldn't cycle at all with this in. The one that's in it right now has an aperture in it, but it is significantly smaller than the aperture through the original. See that wide open bore there? It allows a huge amount of gas through. And these are really overgassed rifles as they come originally from Walther. They wanted to make sure they were reliable. The downside to that is you get some parts breakages, particularly on the action cover. You'll get cracking back here. This one is not cracked, and I'd like to keep it that way. So we're using Rob Applegate's gas piston. Just take a moment to admire that beautiful part. Look at that. Stampings, all rolled over, spot welded to add extra reinforcement there. Just the precision of it's really fantastic. And you'd hate to break it. I don't believe it affects function if it cracks back there, but it's always a good habit to not break your guns if you can help it. So going to put this back together, I'm going to include the other parts as it normally is configured how I use it, which is with the Apfeltor gas cylinder. Beautiful stainless steel, really nicely made. We'll put in the operating rod and its spring. We'll just let it sit there for a moment. And then for this case, I shim the gas system using this washer. And I don't believe this is the included washer. This is one that probably came with a piece of furniture or something, but it fit. It was about the right thickness that I needed. And so I just, doesn't want to go on that end. Let's try it on the other way. There we go. It's about the right thickness I need. And what that does is it essentially lengthens the gas system a little bit so that back here at the action, when your carrier is sitting in, this whole system isn't having a lot of time to accelerate when it impacts it. So you're lessening the impact on the carrier by shimming the system. Pull back on the operating rod, place the extension little link in. We've got the shim just pinched between the linking rod and the cylinder. You can see how it works there. Same way as the SVT-40. This gas cylinder is a later production one, since this is an AC-45 D-block rifle, very late. They've had 2 holes added in here. Some of the earlier ones did not have that. And that was an attempt at the time to deal with the parts breakage problems that were being exhibited by the K43 due to the overgassing. They were trying to bleed out a little bit more gas just with those 2 holes. That's pretty much all there is to it. It's a really nice gas system in simplicity of the design as it originally was on the SVT-40. It adapts very nicely to the K43, and the Apfeltor gas system is really nicely made and helps tune down that gas pressure to where you're not being so violent on the action on these, and can get better longevity out of what's a fairly scarce and interesting rifle. And they'll be around for a lot longer that way. That's all I really had for you folks. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Like and subscribe if you like this content. Thanks for watching.